I learned an interesting story last week that I'd like to share. The Talmud tells us how Chizkiyahu, the king who ruled during the first temple period, was very sick, and miraculously was healed. And one of the miracles that happened was that God held up the sun for 10 hours. What the Talmud tells us is that actually when his father, who was a wicked king, died, the sun set 10 hours early, and now it was held up 10 hours for the sake of Chizkiyahu getting healing. Now, the king of Babylonia at the time, a fellow called Merodach Baladan, asks his advisors, what's going on? And they say, it's in honor of Chizkiyahu that God held up the sun. And so he says, what? And have we then sent him any message or gifts? If someone like that who the sun stops for him, come on. So they send him a message to Chizkiyahu the king, to the city of Jerusalem, and to the God of Israel. Now the Ben Yoyado explains a story as follows, that the nations of the world at that time, of course, couldn't understand that God actually relates to the world directly, and therefore he has intermediaries. And for him, the intermediaries, the most logical intermediaries are the hosts of heaven, the sun, the moon, the stars, the spheres. And when they saw that the sun stopped for Chizkiyahu, so they wanted to exchange the worship of the sun to that Chizkiyahu. He's stronger than the sun, and he will be the intermediary between God and us. So Nebuchadnezzar was an advisor of the king, ultimately became the king of Babylonia himself, but he was advisor of the king, and he wasn't there at the time that they sent the message. So he came back and he said, what did you write? And they told him the order of the way they wrote. He said, that's not respectful to God. God should be first, the God of Israel, then city of Jerusalem, to the Chizkiyahu the king. In other words, there is a direct connection between God and this world, and you don't need an intermediary that bridges a gap. And so he went out to try to stop the person sending the letter, and he took 4 steps, says the Talmud. The Medrash says 3 steps to stop the person from sending the letter as it was, and to rewrite it mentioning God first. And for that honor, God allowed him to destroy the temple. It says the Mashah, a commentary on the Talmud, the Medrash says he took 3 steps. That is why when we finish the Amidah, we take 3 steps back, we say, it should be the will of Hashem that the temple should be rebuilt. So if Nebuchadnezzar was able to destroy the temple because of the steps that he took for the honor of God, how much more so the fact that we take the steps for the honor of God, we should rebuild the temple. And indeed, the Talmud tells us how the reward for the tzaddikim, from Abraham and Isaac and Jacob and the prophets, are way, way, way beyond that of Nebuchadnezzar. So you can imagine if something like this could have happened to Nebuchadnezzar, like the destruction of the temple, which God had planned in any event, but that he was the messenger to do it and was successful at it, how much more so those who take steps in the honor of God. So with that in mind, I'd like to share, Friday was Yom Yerushalayim, the day that Israel recaptured Jerusalem during the 6-day war. Now the head of the rabbinate of the army at that time was Shlomo Goren, and he was in Australia when the issues between with the Arab countries and Israel at that time, and he flew back to Israel, and he was then approached and told that the reason that they haven't started the war yet was because there's actually 2 from the parties of the modern Orthodox, the Mizrahi parties, who would not vote for the war. So he went to talk to them, and he got them to vote. The war started, and he saw that they weren't going for the old city of Jerusalem. They were only fighting in East Jerusalem, but not in the old city. And they told him they didn't. So he went to the general, and he said, "What's going on?" And he said to him, "Well, I'm told that we're not to go against the old city because they were afraid to anger the Christians." He says, "That's crazy. You have to go in and take it. And if they're going to put you in prison for it, then I'll sit with you." He said, "Sorry, I'm not going to do it." So he went and he spoke to the chief of staff of Levi Eshkol, who was the prime minister. And he says, "They have to go into Jerusalem, the old city. This is the one opportunity of getting back the place of our temple, the holiest place for the Jewish people." And so They had a cabinet meeting on the third day of the war, and they decided that they're going to go for it. And when the soldiers went into the old city, he himself went there, and he himself ran in first to the Lion's Gate, and the officer in charge said, "Stop, stop." And he wouldn't stop, so he told another soldier, "Hey, press him against the wall. He's endangering his life." And he said, "Listen, I'm chief rabbi of the army. I outrank you. No one's going to stop me." And he ran in, and he came up to the Temple Mount. And then with a few other soldiers, he went down to where the Kosel was, and there was a gate blocking it. And they broke through the gate. And then and by the way, he took a shofar with him, because it says in the Torah that when you go out to war against the enemies, you blow the shofar. You blow the trumpet, and that will help Hashem, and that will be one of the causes of Hashem helping you in the war. So therefore, he took the shofar with him, and he was there at the Kotel, and he blew the shofar, and that's an iconic picture of the Rabbi Shlomo Goren sounding the shofar near the Kosel. So, how many steps did he take for the honor of Hashem, for the honor of the Jewish people, for the honor of Jerusalem? So the reward and the positivity for him is great. Now, the many Jews now stepping up, taking many steps for the honor of Jewish people, for honor of Jerusalem, for honor of Hashem. May Hashem bring us tremendous blessing that ultimately he brings Mashiach. That's the biggest blessing that we can ask for and we hope for.